am very happy to be in Richmond because I live in Portland. Every time that I come here, I can practice Spanish, 40% of Richmond residents speak Spanish. And I am very happy to be here also because it's very diverse and it's a very progressive city. And we decided to start the Soil Not Oil conference here in Richmond as a political statement against Chevron, And because we really admire what people have been doing here organizing. And I think there will be tomorrow some presentations about how Richmond changed the politics. And one of the main people behind was the current mayor, Tom Booth, that I would like to invite him to come here. And he's also actually a urban farmer. How many of you grow food? So I think he has a lot in common with you. Tom, can you please join us? So I'm gonna let you with him. He's amazing. And he has been defeating Chevron for many years here in this town. Thank you so much.
Welcome to Richmond, everyone.
Thank you.
Our recently completed marketing and branding study came up with the strapline, Bayfront, Homefront, Outfront. Hosting this Soil Not Oil conference for the past 3 years, is an example of what we mean by out front. Being out front is not always easy. 2 years ago, we totally banned chemical herbicide use by city crews on city properties. Including street edges and medians. Unfortunately, weeds have taken over many of our streets, and our city crews blame the chemical ban. They tell us that we've taken away the only tool they can afford to use to control weeds. They've not yet learned how to cope without chemicals, but we will get there. And maybe we'll learn some things at this conference that'll help us get there. Richmond is out front in many areas that utilize sustainable practices consistent with the Soil Not Oil movement. We collect food waste from both residential and commercial customers. We combine it with vegetative waste, compost it, and sell it to both farmers and residential users. We encourage sustainable urban agriculture by supporting organizations like Urban Tilt. The City of Richmond buildings, including the one you're in now, use 100% renewable electrical energy. Our Health in All Policies ordinance requires all city policies to make Richmond a healthier place. And it states, to achieve health equity, Richmond focuses on the social determinants of health. This refers to the conditions in the environment where people are born, live, learn, work, play, worship, and eventually age. And good health is fundamental for a strong economy and a vibrant society. Health outcomes are largely dependent on the social determinants of health. When we have healthy land and soil, we have a healthier community. This conference is an opportunity not just to learn, but to seek partnerships that work on our efforts that prioritize collaboration before conflict. Soil Not Oil is an excellent opportunity to celebrate our collective leadership and demonstrate the best visions to heal the earth. Thank you for joining us in Richmond, and I hope you have a very successful conference, learn a lot, meet a lot of other people you can work with, and take these things home to where you came from and put them to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Butt, and appreciate your leadership on these important environmental issues. So thanks again for everybody for coming to the event today. So it's my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, our keynote speaker, Ray Archuleta. Ray is a farmer from Missouri. He also is a 31-year veteran at NRCS, the National Resource Conservation District, and he's recently retired. I've gotten to know Ray. Ray is a real leader in the whole movement around healthy soils, and he's been a student of the healthy soils. He has recently formed a consulting group with Gabe Brown and several other people working with large farmers in the Midwest, teaching them about soils. He's also one of the stars in the Kiss the Ground film. And Ray's been a real inspiration for people about how we can connect with nature through farming. And so let's give it up for Ray. And he's been a very busy guy. I'm glad he's coming out here today.
Does it work? All right. All right, my little PowerPoint thing. Thank you. Okay, folks. Man, isn't that movie awesome? Yeah. That is exciting. Let's start off this way. I'm going to say, good morning. Oh, beautiful. I always start that when I go do a talk all over the country, and that really gets me excited about it. Folks, how did we get here? Let me tell you how we started years ago, about 10 or 12 years ago, and John, thank you again for inviting me here. I really appreciate it. About 12 years ago, if you would have typed the word soil health on a Google, maybe you get a couple hundred, maybe 1,000. Ladies and gentlemen, now you do a Google search on just the word soil health, 52,400,000. There's 925,000 soil health videos on YouTube with the word soil health. And then 4 million pieces of literature out there. So how did this movement start for me and for several others? It started this way, ladies and gentlemen, one word: failure. I was failing. I was not able to help my producers. I was not able to help them stop this on their farms. I was failing in helping them bring their sons and daughters into the operation. Ladies and gentlemen, that picture was taken in 2016, April. Do you see all the college degrees, all the replicated research, all the conservation planning? Look at it, blowing in our beautiful country. That's still happening after 85 years. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. This is Iowa, 2017. This is still happening in our precious country. Let's go look a couple of years back, Colorado. I said this in front of a large group at the organic conference in Pasa, 1935. Look at the soil. Ladies and gentlemen, most of our agriculture has destroyed our planet, was mostly overgrazing and tillage. There was no chemicals. It was done under an organic system. I told my organic farmers, I said, organic farmers, it's not about organic, it's above organic. It's regenerative. Please keep in mind, thank you, because see, we gotta understand, tillage is incredibly destructive. We didn't know that. I didn't know that. Let's continue down this journey. So keep in mind, it's not about organic. It's much more, it's deeper than that. Ladies and gentlemen, oops. Slides, did it get stuck? Computer, don't you just love them? Do you need to start it again? Okay. Stop clicking. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to show you the next slide. It's going to show you that in an area of Arkansas, we get 60 inches of rain. 60 inches of rain, and farmers are still irrigating. Wrap that around your mind. 60 inches of rain, and they're still irrigating. That is mind-boggling to me. There it is. This is Arkansas. 60 inches of rain. They are land leveling for flood irrigation, and the USDA, I used to work for USDA, are still paying for this destructive practices because the soil is so dysfunctional. As I go all over the country, this slide got me kicked out of a certain state by our own NRCS employee. Said he did not like it because I said our lakes and rivers are filled with conservation and nutrient management plans. And not crystal clear with understanding. I have wrote plans that solved nothing. Is planning important? Absolutely. It's not the goal. Ladies and gentlemen, I grew up in New Mexico. This is what I grew up seeing. I went to school in Las Cruces, New Mexico State. Dr. Johnson's here, he teaches there. I wish I would have had him as a professor. This is what I grew up seeing. I was born in 1961, and I didn't realize my state was a short, steep prairie. I grew up there. Our family's been there for 500 years. This is what you see when you go to New Mexico. This is what it once was. Ladies and gentlemen, if you think about all the prairie land and the grassland that's bare, think about the soil temperatures that are increasing all over the globe. We have focused so much on CO2. It's not just CO2. It's the heat that sun hits that bare soil, reflecting this huge amounts of energy off and pushing the rain clouds away. CO2 is just one aspect. It's much more complex than that. The white shows temperatures over 150 degrees. Look at this whole continent. This used to be grassland. This used to be a forest. So I make it personal. This slide I'd like to show is that the soil is naked, hungry, thirsty, running a fever. It's this bare ground and millions of acres in our range and our cropland. If we want to do one simple thing, if we can get producers just to cover the land, to put a living plant at the end of the year, if we can restore our range and bring living plants to regulate the temperature, it would make a huge difference. So, what got me here? As the more you ponder, I started realizing, my goodness, after the last couple of years, I had this aha moment. I was a product, and I am a product of reductionist science. I didn't realize going through 8 years of university, I was taught reductionist science. Now, reductionist science is very, very powerful. In fact, we couldn't get to the moon. We could not fly without reductionist science. It is powerful. But it does not work for human health, and it does not work for natural living systems. That's why I started promoting Dr. Russell Acuff, systems thinking. Write him down. Watch his 1.5 hour video so you can learn how to think in systems, because you are a system. I am a system. We're a complex system. I started realizing it wasn't just me, but modern agriculture and our producers were taught reductionism. Reductionism is where you study the little piece, but you forget that the little pieces are connected to a whole. I sit there and tell my farmer audience, I said, farmers, what is this? I said, raise your hand when you think that is a car. Some people will raise their hand, but how many believe that is pieces of a car? And some raise their hand. I said, ladies and gentlemen, that is pieces of a car. See, if I jump on that tire, I said, tire, get me to Walmart. It would not get me to Walmart. If I jump on the engine, get me to Walmart. It will not do it. Yeah, or get me to Whole Food. Oh, get me to the organic conference. Yeah, there we go. I said, get me there. It would not get me there, would it? It's the collective pieces working as a whole. What have we done in our universities? Plant pathology, entomology, agronomy, soils. We put them in distinct pieces. They should be all together. What have we done in our medical field? When you go to a doctor, You go to the generalist and you'll say, oh, you got a problem with your stomach. We're going to send you to the stomach person. We're going to send you to the liver person. No. The first doctor should be the most brilliant and knows the collective whole working together. We need holistic science. Let me give you an example here. This is how we've been implementing for 85 years conservation on the land. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a picture of what NRCS, USDA, a lot of us, and I don't put a blame, it just happened. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the riparian corridor. These are the filter strips. These are all grass waterways. Look at the system, the soil, when it's no-till. Look at all the aggregation. Look at a till system. You destroy the aggregation. Destroyed aggregation. So a majority of our farms are still heavily tilled. The only functioning part of that soil is where the filter strips, the riparian corridors, and the grass waterways are there. That's where the soils are functioning. So when you go to the office, we give prescriptions. We give diaper practices. See, a majority of the surface of the soil is still uncovered and is still heavily tilled. So the only spots working, functioning to optimum is where the diapers are at. Now, am I a big, do we need diapers? Yes, we do. Let me give an example. If I get a bug and I put him in my hand and I get this little bug and I smack it and I kill it, what does it die of, audience? Lack of space. Nature needs space also. We need those buffers. We need those corridors. But let's make the whole system a buffer. Can you imagine we covered the whole land? Let me go back here. Ladies and gentlemen, let me show you the old science. This is the old science. There's science to back this up. We have been doing this for years. This is the new science. This is intrusive. This is collaborative. This works with nature. We are no-tilling corn and soybean into a living cover. We're doing it on thousands of acres, ladies and gentlemen. Do you see the distinct difference? This is agroecology in practice. It's so exciting. And we're cutting our herbicides by 80%. No more fungicides, no more insecticides, reduction in chemistry. And they're no-tillers. Oh yeah, they use that wicked herbicide. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to be careful how we communicate. Look at the new old science. Remember, a lot of our farmers were taught the old science. We taught them. I taught them. I was taught that way. Look at the new science. Get a little toy car and move your cattle around. Let the cows express their cowness, in the words of Joe Salatin. This is the old science. This is the new science. This is collaborative. This is reductionist. This is mechanicistic. This shows the system alive. Look at that. Isn't that amazing? There's life in it. Why? Why do we go through such a mechanized, reductionist type of agriculture? Ladies and gentlemen, 200 years ago, 80% of the people farmed. They farmed. We only have 1 to 2% of the people that are producing huge amounts of food. That's why we use so much chemistry. Who is going to pick the weeds? So we have a displacement of population. I go to a bunch of producers, they don't like to use the chemistry. It costs money. It's expensive. They're going broke. Our agriculture is run on ancient sunlight. Pesticides, fertilizers. We got here. We all drove here with ancient sunlight. a precious resource. I tell my producers, I know where you're at. If your farm and ranch is working predominantly on ancient sunlight versus new sunlight, you're not flowing with nature. Ladies and gentlemen, this was taken in a picture in Illinois. Most of our ground is bare in the winter. We want to cover our soils with these primers all over the country. We want to capture sun all the time. In the winter, we want to have covers. One of the things that really resonated with me a long time ago, one night, I finally realized, I come out of my bedroom and I tell my wife, and I'm all excited, I said, wife, the plant and soil are one. She looked at me and she goes, boy, you are so disturbed. She goes, no, hon, they're one. See, we were never taught they're one unit. If I take the plant out, and if I take the soil biology out, what do we have? Geology. You have geology. What we're teaching farmers now, here's this living root exuding liquid sun. Our job is pretty simple, is to put as much liquid sun into the soil to feed the microorganisms. More cycling, less fertility that I have to buy, less dependency on ancient sunlight. That's what we're teaching producers. What do we use? We use the slate test. And I'm not going to go through that real quick because most of you have seen the slate test. How many of you have seen the slate test? Most of you have not. Oh my gosh. Well, maybe we'll go through it real quick. This is how we get to farmers. How do I get into the door with the farmer? It's this one test. Both of them work very effectively. Here we go. This is how I start off. You got a video with that? Audio? I have a question to ask you. Is that it? Healthy, functioning, and stable? Well, we use that one test. You can watch it on YouTube. Tools that I know of is the soil stability test. Here are two soils, exactly the same soil type. This soil has been tilled for 30 years. This soil has not been tilled for 40 years. It is covered with diverse plants year-round. Watch what happens when we drop the soil in the water. Notice how the conventional till soil is falling apart. The biotic glues in the organic matter are burned up by tillage. The soil pores have collapsed. Notice the no-till soil. The pore spaces are still intact. Do this test for yourself. I guarantee if you dig a little, you'll learn a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, that test, I have seen a farmer convert 30,000 acres with just watching that demonstration into no-tilling covers. One test. The soil is incredibly articulate. Here's the other test. See, because you got to remember, I only got 1 or 2 minutes with an audience of farmers. 1 to 2 minutes. Here's the other
To fully appreciate the potential runoff and erosion from a conventionally tilled field like this, you really need to be out here during the most intense thunderstorm of the year. Since most people aren't willing to do that, here in Virginia, we use a rainfall simulator to help our farmers.
This is probably one of the most powerful test demonstrations we use to teach. These things cost about $3,000 to $5,000. Everybody should have one.
On the left, we start with a tray of dry, loose soil taken from a clean till field. On the right, we start with a slice of intact surface soil from a long-term no-till field. This soil is not only protected with a mulch of cover crop residue, it also has a stable, porous sponge structure.
You know, years ago as a kid, I remember, you know, you'd get these big heavy thunderstorms in the summer and it would just wash the field and you'd end up with mud down the road. And I'm talking about mud that you'd go over there with a skid loader and scoop out of the way so the cars could go down the road. What I'm seeing now is I'm seeing these heavy rainfalls and I'm barely seeing a trickle coming out of the field.
After we simulate an extremely intense thunderstorm for 5 minutes, the differences are obvious. Most of the water we applied to this soil has run off into this jar, carrying away with it a thin, but very significant layer of topsoil. We just applied 1.5 inches of very intense rainfall to this bare, tilled soil.
This happens in an organic system also.
Obviously, we harvested very little for future plant use. Meanwhile, this no-till soil has absorbed virtually every drop of water we applied. What little ran off is clear. The bottom line is pretty simple. If you want to harvest more rain like these no-till farmers are doing, keep your soil covered on top and make it a sponge underneath.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, what we're teaching farmers now, even our organic brothers and sisters, reduce your physical and your chemical disturbances. Reduce them. Tillage is intrusive. How does tillage destroy the soil? You wake up bacteria and they eat the biotic glues and make the pores collapse. We've known that since the 30s. Ladies and gentlemen, let's back up here. See, in college, they told me the physical, the chemical, and biology of the soil and the organic matter, they're all equal importance. That's what I was taught. I say, no, that is wrong. Biology maintains the aggregates, builds the physical, regulates the chemistry through organic matter. Biology reigns. It reigns, ladies and gentlemen. Look at this. It's this elegant system. When we show farmers that your soil is alive, it starts to change the way they manage. See, they thought for a long time it was just a growing medium. After 8 years of university study, I didn't realize how alive it is. That's what we're dealing with, ladies and gentlemen. Nice little water bear. How forceful, how wonderful, how powerful is life? How many of you have seen a picture like this? Raise your hand. I could never explain that. I said, can you know those trees are heavily arbuscular mycorrhizae fungi? They excrete these powerful enzymes that break the rock down. Bacteria break rock down. Life is powerful. And I tell farmers, I said, farmers, that's a compaction issue. And they all go, they start laughing. They go, yeah, so what do they usually do to break compaction? Tillage. You know what the best way to break compaction? Life. Look how powerful it is. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a farm in Australia and a calcium carbonate seabed. And I asked the farmers, how is it black on the top? Life. It is powerful. Just to bring in the point about life, how many of you remember Chernobyl? Some of you weren't even born at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, remember they told us about Chernobyl? It was going to be death. It was going to be a desert. Nothing was ever going to survive. Remember that? People lost their lives. 8 kilometers, killed everything biologically. People had to move. People lost their lives. Look at now. Ladies and gentlemen, we way underestimate the resilience of our planet. It is incredibly powerful. Ladies and gentlemen, our current agriculture, Chernobyl is a better location than our current agriculture. See, because Chernobyl doesn't allow humans there. It gives it rest. Our fields get plummet with tillage and fungicides and insecticides and herbicides. There is no rest for them. Chernobyl will recover quicker. So what are we doing now, ladies and gentlemen? We are bringing ecological memory back. We are planting multi-species cover crops through the whole country on hundreds and thousands of acres. We're bringing ecological memory back. Gabe, my partner, my friend, my mentor, he said to me, Ray, I used to get up every morning to see what I had to kill. Now I get up every morning to see what I bring to life. Isn't that cool? Ladies and gentlemen, he was a conventional farmer. He's not organic. He's regenerative. I was conventional too. Folks, biology is so powerful, we now found bugs. Humans have found bugs that eat plastic and eat styrofoam. That is so cool. That gives me hope. Now, what's the answer? Biomimicry. I think we should all wear t-shirts. When I go to the airport, I said, man, I do biomimicry. I'm a biomimicker. What do? I farm and ranch. I mimic the template. This is what I love. Some of our best designs, ladies and gentlemen, come from the natural template itself. Velcro was designed by the cocklebur. Great engineer. You know what the name of that engineer is? Millionaire. There's nothing wrong with that, ladies and gentlemen. Some of our best design. How many of you have an iPhone? Raise your hand. How many of you have a phone? Biomimicry. The antenna was designed by fractals. We're using elephant tusk. We're mimicking the elephant trunks to do biomimicry. Biomimicry has been around for a long time, ladies and gentlemen. Our goal, like Janine Banias was saying, we want to mimic the prairie and the forest. That's what we're doing right now. You know why I missed it? My college education got in the way. Biomimicry is even in the ancient scriptures. Ask the beasts, and they will teach you. We have lost the art of observation. I have lost the art of observation. Do you know how difficult it is to try to convey this in a conventional agriculture? You know what the first thing they tell me? Well, Ray, where is your data? That's the first thing they throw in my face. I said, really? How about these brilliant researchers? This is patterns and applications have been there for many, many years in nature, but they rarely applied. We are now designing our cover crop mixes to mimic the top of the architecture of the prairie and the forest to capture energy. This is the way our mixes are looking. I hate the name cover crop. I wish we could find a better name. If you can find a better name, but I hate it. Cover crop only denotes cover the soil. Cover crops are biological primers, energy transformers, nutrient sequesters. The ancients used to call the plant the mouth of the soil. If we can figure out a better name than cover crop, please let me know, because I hate the current name. Now we are doing the armor in the soil. We are planting green out of brown. The prairie has, when you pull the prairie grass, in the bottom of the prairie grass, you'll see armor. Look how we're doing this on large scales of agriculture. Ladies and gentlemen, what is that? When I did that, the organic group, they said, oh, that's a cancer machine. And they started laughing. I said, you know what that cancer machine does? It puts standing covers. It plants covers on standing corn. Look at that, ladies and gentlemen. On thousands. Farmers built that. And you should have seen the organic group get quiet. Look what we're doing in Manchester, Tennessee, on hundreds of thousands of acres. We are planting corn and soybean into standing cover. We are capturing sun to the last minute. We are capturing nutrients to the last minute. Isn't that beautiful? Yes, we're working towards that. We are working towards that. We are capturing sun. We're doing diversity. Do you see any weeds? Look at the cereal rye laying it down. Look at that beautiful cereal rye rolled. We're increasing yields, reducing herbicide use. Look at the corn. Look at the tobacco that was heavily tilled before. No till. People said, well, how long does it take, Ray? It's a function of you. It's a function of the producers. This young man, Adam Daughtery, less than 3 years, they started with no-till. Look how no-till by itself looked. We knew no-till was not the answer by itself. Ecological farming. Once we put the covers into no-till, the increase of respiration in 3 years was 279%. The carbon, the food being used by those soils are incredible. Those soils are cycling so quickly. Our soil health scores have improved by 50% in less than 2 to 3 years. We are now mimicking buffalo. We are running our animals biomimicry. Look how we're doing with them. We are running the animals so tight so that we have urine and manure distribution to feed the microbes. Most people that fight against cows do not understand how the soil works. We need large herbivores. They need to impact the soil. This is why our range are becoming deserts, because we don't run it through biomimicry. Look how Gabe Brown's, how we're grazing the cows tight together, like buffalo. We are now using a bat latch, battery-powered operated bat latch, has a timer, releases the bungee cord, the cows move by themselves. Look how we've changed the soil by just properly grazing from 1 to 8 inches. Well, we're going to wrap it up here. I'm going to show you the last couple of slides, and it gave me so much hope. Please type in West Texas Circle Ranch by Christopher Gill. I grew up in New Mexico in a very brittle environment. This is what we see through the whole country, ladies and gentlemen. We see bare soils. And our scientists said, you can't have plants growing there because these shrubs are allelopathic. And I would drive through my state and I said, how are we going to regenerate that soil? Ladies and gentlemen, look how the bareness of that soil. On millions and millions of acres. Now look what happens when you have an ecological focused producer. Look what happened. He went in with a limited tillage, just to disturb the soil, not too much. Keyline plow. Did it on a slope, on topography, and look what happened, using mob grazing. He brings in the cattle like buffalo, and look what happened, and brought ecological memory back. Ladies and gentlemen, we can do this. Gives me a lot of hope. So I leave you with this last note. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to do the most important thing that we have to do to push this movement. One word. Love your neighbor. Be careful how we communicate with them because we don't know where they're at. See, the moment what we do as humans, we put distinct differences. Let's work on our commonalities. We all have the same thing in goal. We have to support our family. We have to feed them. You got to understand the pressures of poor farmers. Farmers right now, according to the Center of Disease, have the highest suicide rate of the top 30 careers, farmers and ranchers. They have a huge burden of maintaining the infrastructure. But if we do this in love and communicate and understand their context, we put society as a whole put them there. We taught them there. The university, NRCS, the government, we did this. Now we have to work our way out. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's promote our brotherly love to help our producers, to understand their context. I want to thank you for having me, John. I think this is the way we're going to promote it. Thank you.